Oh, what happened to the numbers? We don't get the numbers anymore?
I did.
Oh, I saw them.
No. And again, well, anywho, I didn't get the numbers, but regardless, we are back. Chris, you've been a guest before on the Wodify Insider Series, but you have not been a guest before on The Next Rep. So, this is your inaugural appearance on The Next Rep.
I feel like we're living in the future here.
Indeed. But Chris Cooper, founder of Two Brain Business, regular guest here on the show. We're so happy to talk to you today, Chris. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks, guys. Always love being on your podcast.
Our
It's
first
always top
repeat
quality.
guest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Our
right.
first number 2. I love it.
Love it. Well,
Love being called the number 2. I don't know.
right.
You're number 1. You're number
Yeah,
1.
right. Thanks.
Well, Chris, we're here today to discuss a very important topic, a topic that I think a lot of our customers want to hear more about. And the topic, of course, is my mustache. Chris, what are your thoughts? No, I'm just kidding. The real topic, of course, is the upcoming release of the latest edition of the State of the Industry Report powered by Two Brain. So, Chris, you were nice enough to give Reganne and I a copy of the report. We both were able to review it prior to talking here today. If you don't mind, I kind of had what I thought was a high-level takeaway. But before I get to that, what's a headline from this report that you came away from it? Because you do this practice every year. You look at the numbers, you gather the data, you go through the analysis. What did you come away from this report feeling like was the main headline of the year?
There's a few, but I think that the number one overarching theme is that the industry is trending more toward small group personal training than ever before. And, we published this report because I don't just want to give people opinions as fact. I want to uncover the truth. And, we partner with Wodify because you guys have such amazing, clear data. And, it makes it really easy to spot trends. And so one of those trends was that more and more gyms are moving towards small group personal training. And I think there's quite a bit to unpack there, but that was a big one. Otherwise, all gym types seem to be moving up a little bit this year. It's just that the small group personal training gyms are moving ahead a lot faster.
For sure. It's so funny you say that because I was going to say that my main takeaway from this was, is this the rise of the small group? And there were so many metrics that it seemed like they had gained a whole lot of ground relative to the big group model. And by the way, for folks who've never read this report, please do, because it really just gives you an excellent grasp of the structure of the industry to even just be able to define big group versus small group versus one-on-one and these types of business models you're offering. I think that would, even that sort of infrastructure and being aware of it, there might be a lot of gyms who don't even quite realize that that's their model that they're practicing and that there are other models available. So just a general plug there is really useful for me, even as someone who talks to gym owners on sales calls all day, to see that all laid out before me. But one particular metric was interesting, Chris, and I want to see if maybe you think this plays a role in that rise of small group, which is this was a Wodify stat that the average number of attendees in a class was 6.6. And this has been pretty consistent. It sounds kind of like a small group, right, at that metric. Might that explain a little bit why this is happening?
Yeah, it's definitely part of it, and it's a strong correlation to the rise of small group. But I think that the reason that more gyms are moving to small group is they're just kind of putting this together thanks to the data. Small group is nothing new. I mean, Greg Glassman, if you're a CrossFit gym, his original model was small group. It's just that in watching the original CrossFit videos and reading the journal, I missed that. And I thought, well, the bigger group that you can get, the better your business is going to be. And so we were doing personal training at this end, and we were doing, groups of 12 at this end. But what's really happened over time is that most CrossFit gyms especially, but also the independent HIIT gyms, the boot camp gyms, they priced their memberships as if they were expecting 12 per class, and they're really getting 6.6 per class. And so they're selling small group personal training at big group training prices. And so that leads to commoditization and downward price pressure and all this other stuff, when really the CrossFit gyms, the boot camps, the HIIT gyms have this enormous strategic advantage that most are just starting to kind of realize now, and that is small group personal training.
There are a couple of other data points too, I think, around length of engagement, average revenue per member. And by the way, kudos to you guys for coming up for the arm and leg Like
Thank you.
just brilliant. Well done there.
Well, honestly, Corey, so we talk about arm and leg, and we've been talking about that for a decade. We also talk about, in my book, The Simple Six, we talk about head for head count of clients, but we also talk about NOB. And when we talk about those things all together, people find it funny. So we just wanted to make it memorable. And I know gym owners don't want to be accountants, so I just tried to put like a easy to remember acronym to them.
I love that. And it, again, just a plug for the report, but just really helpful to realize that, hey, there's lots of metrics that can be tracked.
Yeah.
But these are the ones, like, to your point, gym owners don't want to be accountants. They don't want to be getting into the nitty gritty of, the thousands of different data points that are capable of being tracked. Let's break it down and let's just focus on your arms and legs for a little while. Then we can branch out from there. But a couple of data points, Chris, around length of engagement and average revenue per member. Do you think there's something there that's driving the small group decisions as well? Is it purely economic, or is there something about client preference that's going on there? A little bit more personalization, a little bit more individualized program? There's an actual product decision, or do you think it's mostly an economic decision?
Well, it depends. So a lot of gyms will just start offering small group because they hear about it in reports like these or on your show or on my show, and they'll think, I got to start doing it. And then what happens over time is that the clients love it, and those clients stick around longer than the big group clients. And so over time, your gym starts to skew more and more towards small group. In my gym, it was more the coaches. So we've done personal training now for literally 20 years. And we've had big group coaching since probably 2008, I guess, when we became a CrossFit affiliate. And when we started rolling out semi-private, which is similar to small group, we call it semi-private in my gym. What we quickly found was that the coaches only wanted to do semi-private from that point on. They're getting paid $34 and something cents to run a group class, and they're getting paid $34 and something cents to do a personal training session. But they can easily make $80 to $100 per session for semi-private. So when they see 4 people, 5 people in this semi-private earns me 3 times as much money, they do all the things that we hope that they would do all the time. They call people when they don't show up. They text me when I'm 5 minutes late. And they really put a lot of enthusiasm into semi-private. And so as a result, downstream, more clients stick with semi-private longer. Some clients transfer into semi-private. The coaches talk about semi-private. Their one-on-one clients get moved to semi-private, and everything just kind of skews that way, as it should. It's also better for business. If you maintain the same margin on semi-private as you can on private, you're making far more per hour, and you're doing it with far less expenses. So instead of more money going to the landlord, the government, the bank, that money's really going to your coaches. And that, I think, is kind of a win for everybody listening to this podcast.
I love that. And Chris, with the small group model, do you, it's kind of a 2-part question here. Number one, how do you see it being implemented in practice out there? Is it something that is becoming the sole product or the primary product a lot of these gyms? Or is it something that's being added on to their big group offering as a secondary service?
Well, a lot of gym owners that are running a big group, like a lot of the CrossFit gyms, they're adding this on. And that's a struggle for them. Like gyms who open up as personal training studios and then they move to small group or semi-private, it's just kind of a natural progression for them. It's a very easy conversation with your client, and that's how they scale. That's how I would have scaled if I had realized that's what Glassman was doing back in 2007. It's the gyms who are coming in now, and they're CrossFit gyms, and frankly, a lot of them are not doing that well. They see the promise of semi-private and they say, how do I pivot to this? They're having a tough time with the change. And the reason is that if I'm your client and I'm going to, CrossFit Deborah, and there are 4 or 5 people in my morning group, and I'm paying $150 a month, or $158 is the average, and you're saying, Chris, you should really be in a semi-private group. There's only 4 people, and it's $300 a month. Like, that's a tough sell. And so in those gyms that have big groups, we say, don't call it small group personal training, call it semi-private personal training instead, just to give it kind of a differentiation. And they are somewhat different services, but giving it a different name helps the client understand that they're like a different product.
Yeah, it's something that we've come up against even dealing with new gyms is there is a fine line. There's a slight difference, but it does exist between semi-private personal training and small group training. But I do think in general, semi-private personal training probably justifies a little bit more of that price increase than small group training. Even if it's just a semantics thing, it just sounds a little bit more personalized. It sounds a little bit higher end.
Yeah, and you get all the benefits of the big group, honestly. I mean, there's times when you want to work out in a big group, but frankly, all of the reasons that we cite, all the benefits of big group, you really do get in a small group. You know, for example, I was in my semi-private group last Wednesday, and, you know, there's 5 of us. I'm the only man in the group, and the spectrum of women who are training with me range between 10 years younger than me and 30 years older than me. So what's happening, though, is really interesting. So everybody's got their own program. I'm just getting back into lifting after a summer on the bike. Somebody else is recovering from an injury. This woman is training because her mother just got put into a home, and this woman is training just to be super fit and competitive. But we're all training together on our own programs. And so you still get that vibe, you still get kind of this community feel. We're joking with each other. The coach had to step out for a second, come back, no big deal. You know, we're still giving each other tips and encouragement and cheers and high fives and all that stuff. But your program is really tailored to you. And so at my gym, that really sticks with us because we're big on programming, we're big on individualization. But there are a lot of other gyms where small group is really the answer because they want the 6 people in that group doing the same workout, kind of racing each other. They want that competitive collaboration, cheering each other up their first rope climb and stuff like that.
Yeah, how do you think the needs of the business from a technological perspective or even just from an operational perspective change if someone were out there going, you know, if they're currently on a big group model and they want to transition to small group? I think programming probably stands out right away as the big differentiator, right? Like that's probably going to have to change in terms of how they distribute and create their programming.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a different skill set. I mean, we do still run group classes 3 times a day, and that's kind of a catch-all. We've had a community of people who've been around the gym for up to 20 years. They've been in these groups. They just want to stick with the groups and work out with their friends. There's also people in semi-private who, you know, maybe they miss a session this week. They can come to the group and make a session up if they want to. And so that's what they're doing. But the coaches that we have coaching the big groups at my gym are very happy, very upbeat, very excited. They're high-fiving. They're not going deep into, here's why the programming is the way it is. They are triaging, is, you know, CrossFit's word. So it does feel kind of like this model of solving one quick problem and fixing it in every person. You go into a semi-private group, the coaches are more technical, they're more experienced, they've been in the group for longer. They're probably not playing like Jock Jam's 2005 on the stereo. Like it's rock and roll music and stuff, but they're spending way more time with each individual client, and they can because there's fewer.
To use an extreme example, I've never owned a gym, so correct me if I misspeak here, but if I were running that big class, big group model, I would be okay sacrificing on the technicality and to use an extreme example here, Soul Cycle. This is somebody who's teaching an enormous group of people, probably doesn't have a lot of technical expertise, but they have energy, they're fun, they're almost like the MC of the party. Whereas in the smaller group setting, now we're really ramping up technique. And I think there was a metric there related to average revenue per coached hour actually goes up, even though the pay per hour is also a little higher for that semi-private session too. So, you know, you're getting a higher quality technical person, and you're also, as a result, be able to net a little bit more from each unit of the product sold, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the bigger the group gets, the more it starts to feel like choreography. You know, and where CrossFit kind of skewed toward this big group model was in 2006. This speaker named John Birch came to the first affiliate gathering, and they put him on stage, and he talked about what he was doing at CrossFit LA at the time. But his background was actually in karate schools. And in a karate school, you want to fill it with kids. You want to give them their first month for free. And it's choreography, right? You're not teaching everybody how to punch and kick individually. They're all doing it in sync. And that's what happens at SoulCycle too. So those kind of instructors, you want people who are attentive, who remember first names. They're very rah-rah. God love them. In a semi-private you really don't need that. You want people who are going to be explainers and connectors. And, that's a very different skill set, but my coaches at my gym anyway have been with me now, some of them for over 15 years, and they're mature. They're veteran coaches, very experienced. They're going to have those conversations instead of choreographing a big class. So, it's a different skill set. I think if you are running like a big class model, CrossFit is probably the best. But on the flip side of that, if you're running a CrossFit gym and trying to get to profitability, the big group model alone is probably not going to do it for you. You either need to add a one-on-one option for higher value clients, or you need to just combine the two into small group.
Yeah, so can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure,
What would be a way that you would recommend a CrossFit gym who sees this revenue potential on the first couple pages of the State of the Industry report for small group and one-on-one training? How would you advise them look into adding that kind of offering and making sure they have everything they need to back it up, the coaching skill set, the operations in place?
Yeah, sure. So first off, Reganne, that's a great question. Thank you. I don't have a dog in this fight. There's nothing that I get from saying small group seems to be the path forward, right? Like, we don't dream up the truth or create the truth, we uncover the truth. And so what we've been working on here is helping gyms that are running one model switch to a more profitable model. Now, in some of our gyms, they're going to run a big group coaching product. That's fine. We help them through their P&L, we set their prices, etc. A lot of our gyms are trying to pivot to small group or semi-private. And if you're a CrossFit gym and you've been selling group classes or groups or classes, what you probably want to do is start by saying semi-private. Because if you're saying big group versus small group, it's kind of hard to explain to the client what the difference is. Well, there's already 4 people in my group. When you call it semi-private, it has a different name, and that kind of blocks off a difference in the product. So start by calling it semi-private. Now, there's no legal defined term for semi-private, so you can do individual coaching if you want to, individual programming if you want to, or you can just do small group workouts, but give it a different name. The first thing that you do, if you're a CrossFit gym and you're just running big group classes, you need to get some revenue diversity anyway. Like, if you're looking at this guide and you're on page, I think it's 30, the average big group price is $150, and the average big group ARM is $158. That's not enough. You have to be making a higher ARM. So the first thing that you do is you start by running an on-ramp that's one-on-one. And that's your introduction to personal training. And you spend 6 months probably building up a personal training clientele and selling personal training so that you're good at that. Then you take your 2 clients who are most similar in training goals and, maybe level, and you introduce them to one another. And you go to the first one. You say, hey, Cory, you're doing so great. You're making amazing progress. Do you feel the same way? Yes. The only thing that could really speed up your progress, I think, at this point, is to partner you with somebody else at your exact level. Not so that you compete, but so that you'll push and encourage each other. Are you open to that? Yes. Great. I've got this amazing client named Reganne. She is right at about your level, slightly ahead of you in some things, slightly behind you in other things. What I'd like to do is try a workout with the 3 of us together. And if it works out, we'll keep that going from there. How's that sound? Okay. So you put them together, you do a workout, you go back to each one individually. Wasn't that amazing? By the way, if you want to keep training with Reganne, that's our semi-private program. We'll work out a schedule together. You'll both get better results. Some of them might ask about price, but in my experience, not all of them even will. And usually the price is about 10% less when you've got 2 people or 3 people training together. And, that's exactly the verbatim text that I learned from Greg Glassman when I finally figured out a decade later that that's what he was doing and not running these big groups of 30 people.
A little bit of a pivot here, Chris.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about leads.
Cool. Yeah, right on. Let's go.
There was a metric that I thought was absolutely mind-blowing, and you probably already know what I'm going to say here as it relates to leads, but it was, I believe, 14.6% of gyms never contacted their leads in any capacity at all. Yeah. That is a mind-blowing statistic.
It is, and I'm sure you guys hear it as often as I do. I need more leads, I need more leads. And this misperception about what a lead is and, why you need more leads, it's really pervasive and it's hurting a lot of gyms. And this is actually why a lot of gyms will go out and hire an ad agency when that's not actually their problem. So the problem for most gyms is they're getting leads, but they're not capturing the leads. They're not doing anything with it. They're not continuing the conversation. I think the average is, the average gym is getting like 31 leads a month, but only 6 are booking appointments and only 2 of those are actually signing up. Well, that's a lead nurture problem. That's not a lead gen problem. If you took 30 leads and you got 10 people to book an appointment and 7 to sign up, which is more like the 2-brand average, that's the difference between 2 new clients and 7 new clients a month. And suddenly your gym is growing again with no new leads. The bottom of that barrel, the worst end of the spectrum, is the gyms who never call leads at all. And I wish this, never happened, but even when I was working for CrossFit and traveling for CrossFit, and my email address was chris@crossfit.com, when I was going to a city to do a story, I would email 4 gyms because I knew that 2 of them wouldn't even respond and 1 would probably respond too late. And I don't mean to pick on CrossFit gyms here, but all coaching businesses need to understand that the first act of coaching is coaching somebody into your gym. It's not push your knees out in the squat. And so when somebody fills out a form, calls your phone number, sends you an email, you start coaching and you coach them to come into your gym. And then you coach them to make a commitment to change their lives. And then you coach them to push their knees out in the squat. And if they're out there in the water and saying, help me, and filling in your form, sending you an email, calling you up, answering your text, and you're not reaching out your hand to help them, it's not just a missed opportunity or mislead. It's a failure as a coach.
I think what else was super interesting about that stat is it went up from last year.
Yeah.
So, and I'm interested to get your take on if you think that is a ripple effect of overuse of automation. We really strongly believe in automation with a human touch. Keep calling your leads and make sure you have those real human touch points in your automation cycles. Because if you're just automating an email that sends immediately after somebody fills out a form on your site, that's great. They should get that initial information, but they also need to know that there are humans on this other side of this business that are ready to help them in this, journey they're about to go into.
I think you're absolutely right, Regan. So CRMs, lead capture, this is an amazing safety net. It means that no lead goes uncaptured or completely missed or unheard. My very first job in fitness was selling treadmills back in 1998. And my boss told me every time that phone rings, it's worth $10,000. And ever since then, I've been really good about, lead nurture and stuff. But what's happened now is a lot of people who fill in a form, they immediately get a text or an email. They know there's an automation behind it and they're wary of it. They don't want to enter any personal information in the text because they don't know what's going to happen to it. They don't know who's contacting them, what information is being captured. And hearing from a human is usually like the unlock to actually have the conversation now. And this has come up so quickly, even in the last 3 months, that it's more imperative than ever to actually pick up the phone and call somebody and call them again and call them again. And if you still don't get a message after 6 attempts, send them a voice message or send them a video message is even better.
There's an old adage in the real estate industry. I was an agent for a couple of years. And it was that the agent who has the most voice-to-voice communication wins. And I feel like that applies here too, right? Those auto texts are great. Those auto emails are amazing. And to your point, Chris, capturing that information is a big value add too. But at the end of the day, what it does is present to you an organizational structure for you to be having voice-to-voice communication with the right people.
Well, you have an amazing voice, Cory, so that helps too, right?
Well, thank you. Unfortunately, the homeowners of the greater Philadelphia area did not agree with you, Chris.
That's amazing. It was necessary but insufficient.
That's right.
Regan, what I do see, a lot of gym owners signing up for CRMs like Wodify, and they're capturing leads. Fantastic. But some of us hide behind that. I don't need to call them because the software is doing the work. Or, I can wait to call them tomorrow because they're already in the sequence. They're getting emails from me. But you have to kind of get over that internal barrier, 1st. And I can remember when this finally came to a head with me, I literally asked myself, Chris, are you willing to overcome your own internal BS and help this human being? And it was a case where, this person was asking me all kinds of questions. We were at a hockey rink, and I knew the only solution was to get them into the gym, get them eating well, and get them moving. And I finally said, do you care enough about this person to actually offer to help them? And that was the first time I did it. I was probably sweating underneath my very Canadian toque. And I was like, do you want to come in the gym and chat in private for 15 minutes? I'm there tomorrow. And they said yes. And from there, I kind of understood, when you're a gym owner and you're out in public, your responsibility is not to have the best abs or the tightest Under Armour t-shirt. Your responsibility is to be the connector and overcome your own internal dialogue and actually invite the person to come to the gym.
I'm a huge fan of the no sweat intro. Huge fan. I think getting people in the gym as quickly as possible so you can sit face to face with them and show empathy to whatever it is that they want to come in and work towards, and really show up for them immediately to help them work towards those goals, and then connect your product as the solution. I think it's invaluable. You don't need to be going back and forth with them for a week on text. You need to get them in your door as quickly as you can.
That's fear, isn't it? It's usually the gym owner is scared of putting themselves out there. We feel like this is a first date, and it's, here's the person I'm going to marry. I can't afford to say the wrong thing. And you just get over that with repetition, really.
Chris, one thing or two about leads. So going a little bit further upstream in terms of where these leads are coming from. Some statistics there, I believe about 32-ish% were coming from paid advertisement. Yep. About 29-ish% from referrals, which is surprising that's not higher. Another 29-ish% from organic social media. And then another about 11% from content, which could be blogs, video, long form stuff. I want to zero in on paid ads. This seems to be a little bit of I think we experience it. You kind of touched on it briefly. It's a little bit of an epidemic right now in the space, particularly amongst new gym owners, of a incredibly heavy reliance on paid ads. They start these gyms, they sign up with these agencies. I mean, I was recently quoted a customer who was about to sign a contract, a 6-month contract, $1,000 a month for someone to do ads. So we're talking $6,000 out the door before they've even signed a single member up for a membership. What is your take? How would you, in your mentorship program, generally advise someone about paid advertisement? What's their proper role? Because it seems like they're producing a healthy amount of leads, but I guess, are they closing? That's the real question here. Are these quality leads?
Yeah, and the answer, typical mentor answer, is it depends. But we tell people to build 4 funnels, and the ads are the last ones. The ads should be seen as pouring fuel on the fire, not as replacing your other marketing funnels. So if you've got a good referral funnel, it means that every good lead that comes in through a paid ad turns into 2 leads and cuts your ad cost in half. If you've got a good social media funnel, then everybody that's attracted to your brand through a paid ad can, hang around on your social media channel and get warmed up and build some trust before they book an NSI with you. And the content funnel is becoming absolutely critical right now as search dies. If somebody sees an ad on social media and they can watch content, they can, see your video, they can listen to your podcast or read a blog post or something like that, that's really what's going to win them over, especially if they see ad for 4 different gyms in your town, but yours is attached to a blog post, or you have a video addressing the thing that I care about. What's really interesting right now is that in the last quarter, organic search has dropped about 30%, and that's a number that's coming straight from Google, which means that people are looking for answers in ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever. And so you want the answers to be coming from you, and that means you have to be publishing content. You do see this on Facebook now, because suddenly, where I used to see 2 or 3 ads for, gym business coach or gym advertising agency a day, now I see probably 30. It's my whole stream. And it's because ad agencies are getting more and more desperate. They're using AI tools to generate whatever they think is going to get a response from the viewer. And that means a more crowded algorithm. It means a more crowded workspace. And so, paid ads in Facebook and Instagram will never go away, but they're going to get more expensive and less effective.
If I had to, this is kind of a nerdy question here, but let's say of these sort of 4 pillars of lead sources that you outlined in the report. We have paid ads, we've got referrals, we've got organic social media, and we've got content.
Yeah.
If I asked you to make a bet, which one's going to drop the most and which one's going to rise the most over the next 5 years, what are you thinking in that regard? What one will drop and what one will rise?
What I would hope is that paid ads will drop, because I always want to see gym owners getting more clients from referrals. I can't confidently say that referrals are going to go up, but what is happening a lot more is this general awareness that getting more referrals doesn't mean waiting and praying that my clients will recommend other people. It doesn't mean just getting my clients good results and that will attract others. And it doesn't mean giving you a 20% off incentive if you invite your wife. What it means is extending your help and your care to try and create a social network around your own clients. So I would hope that would happen, but I honestly think content production is probably going to be the most important thing in the next 5 years. I have been saying that for 15 years already, though, and some people believe it and some people don't.
Do you have a lot of examples, just working with your mentees, of someone who started a piece of content that really ended up producing real results for them? Would be it a podcast, a YouTube channel? Is it very topical when they do these? Like, is it like they're addressing specific, common issues that their clients are facing? Is it more general, just kind of sharing their personality, getting people to like them? What seems to work?
Well, across all categories, consistency is what works the best. So when I give you like a daily framework or a challenge, for the next 30 days, I want you to post 3 times to Instagram a day, 1 reel, 1 story, 1 picture post. When people do that consistently, they're amazed at the results, right? And it's the same thing with content. But long term, the clients who've been around Two Brain for a while, who maybe started producing content when we first asked them to, and they've been doing it for 2 or 3 years consistently, that's when they get these big epiphanies of, holy moly, suddenly I don't have to do paid ads anymore. My gym between 2005, its inception, and 2022, when we were coming out of COVID lockdowns, we didn't run an ad, and we didn't have to because we had this amazing content base. And even today, if you're in Sault Ste. Marie and you Google anything related to fitness, my website's going to come up. You just build this big snowball over time.
Yeah, it seems like there's this admission that we all have to make that this is how content is consumed nowadays. This is how information is distributed nowadays, and it is algorithmically run and generated. And volume absolutely is a huge piece of the pie when they determine what, or at least it seems, I guess these algorithms are mysterious. No one really knows what's driving them, but there's that classic example of someone who posted, this is an extreme example, of course, but they posted 100 YouTube videos a day for 2 years.
Wow.
And at the end of it was terrible content. They just filled it up with them. Hey, this is me eating lunch. Hey, this is me starting my car. And wouldn't you know it, at the end of the experiment, they had like 5 million subscribers. So by hook or by crook, it does seem like volume. Obviously, we're not advocating someone do 100 videos a day, although, I don't know, you might stand out if you do that. There's no doubt volume makes a big difference.
Well, I was on this call with Dan Martell last week, and, Dan's big premise is if you just do one thing consistently well, instead of trying to do 100 things one time, you're going to win. And that seems to be the case across all marketing right now. We're at this amazing crux where it's easier than ever to produce and distribute content, easier than any time in history. You can also get ChatGPT to give you, tell me the top 5 topics for fitness right now. And then, you can go out and record your feelings on it. It's really, really easy. But over time, there's so much noise and overwhelm. Our job is less become like the source of information and more the curators of information. So I'll give you a great example as kind of a counterpoint to the 100 YouTube videos a day. I was out mountain biking 2 weeks ago with my friend Mike. Mike is 80 years old. He is fully deaf. And we were like the first aid marshals on a high school cross country race. And so for about 3 hours, we had these beautiful mountain bike rides. And so we would chat, every time we stopped to wait for a kid to go up a really tough climb or whatever. And Mike started talking about, at 80 years old, creatine. And he was asking me about it. He's like, Chris, I heard this podcast recently. It was recommended to me on Spotify about creatine, and I never even considered creatine, but now I'm really thinking about it. What's your take? And I told him, and he's like, oh, that's exactly what got said on this podcast. I said, what was the podcast, Mike? And he said, The Catalyst with, oh, it's you. And like, that's kind of what happens is you create this caring net of knowledge and curated content around people in your communities. And when they have a question, they're going to come to you.
Yeah, I think it was Gary Vee who once said, document, don't create, as like a really good mindset to get people to actually posting regularly. Now, while I wish people would stop doing that on their personal accounts, we need to all document less of our personal lives. But from a business perspective, I think that's a really good guiding light. Wouldn't it be fascinating for someone in your local community to be like, oh, wow, they documented the whole process of opening the gym and getting it outfitted and all the trials and tribulations that they came up against while starting the gym. They're going to choose you. They're going to feel like they're rooting for you and that they know you through consuming that content. So I think while it might not be the best for personal lives, I think that whole document, don't create thing is really applicable to businesses trying to get their content game going and improve.
The stories that you've repeated in your head 1,000 times so often that they're boring are often the most interesting stories to clients. I mean, if you look at my Instagram from the last, 12 hours, you've got one post of rusty old bumper plates that I bought in 2005 with 4,000 views. And then you've got a talking head video of me with maybe 500 or 600 views. Like, people like the stories. They want to hear the story of you opening the gym. They want to hear about your failures. They want to hear, why was there a pirate flag up in the corner of that gym? And like, why did it smell so bad? Like, that's the stuff they really want to hear.
Love that.
Can we get a little bit more specific about content? Because I think we're talking about it as like a very broad term, but having been somebody running a gym who had no idea about what to do with content marketing, am I writing blogs to show up in AI search? Am I focusing on socials? Like, what is there one over the other that's going to be more worth my time if I'm going to start somewhere? What are your thoughts on specific channels?
My feeling right now is that video is the best because most of the algorithms optimize for video. But also, if you look at where transcription is basically right now, Google keeps promising audio search. So if you go on Google and you're like searching for creatine, now it will actually search audio and say this is a podcast that you might want to listen to, even if there's no transcript. So that's interesting. But really, if you start with audio, it's really, really easy. Most people are better at speaking than they are about writing. Although, Regan, you are a really good writer. And so they can just do a quick cast into their phone. And so what we recommend for people who are brand new to this is you go on ChatGPT and you say, like, give me 5 popular topics in fitness right now. Or you just listen in your gym and it's like, oh man, a lot of these people are talking about creatine again. And so you organize your thoughts. You pull out voice recorder on your phone. Hey, it's The Catalyst. I'm Chris Cooper. Today we're going to be talking about creatine, and then I'm going to share the programming for the rest of the week. That's literally how my quick cast starts every single week. 5 minutes on creatine. I pull up the spreadsheet with our programming. Monday, we're going to be doing this. Here's why. Here's the intent. Here's the value that you're going to get from it. Tuesday, here's the benefit of this workout. And then you just publish that on your podcasting platform. It doesn't have to be edited. You don't need intro music. You're not going to get sponsors. Your clients will love it. And you can pull a transcript from that and turn that into blog posts if you want to. I mean, honestly, what I literally do for my gym is I take the transcript from that podcast. So I upload it to my podcasting platform. I upload it to Otter. Gives me a transcript. I put that into Claude. And I say, can you give me 3 or 4 social media posts on this with captions? Done. Takes about 4 minutes. And, half my social media posts are done for the week too.
Thanks for the free coaching, Chris. We just took notes on your workflow there. We're going to grow the next rep here. We're going to use the Chris Cooper model, the two-brain podcast growth model.
Switch to Claude, point number 1.
Yeah, Claude is a little bit better for me, just because I'm an analytical person. But what Dan Martell, who's probably a great example of using Instagram to grow a brand, what he talks about now is, like a lot of the content that you see out there is almost too polished. And if you look at the Two Brain Business Instagram channel, it is pro, like it is amazing. And so Dan said, let's try this for the next 30 days, 3 times a day, just post a video of you talking. Don't edit it, like you do it. Don't leave it to your media team. And what that does is it creates a little bit of depth. Like, oh yeah, it's Chris, it's a real person. And you have to have both. Like I really benefit from the professionally done media. But honestly, sometimes when I'm out walking my dog, I get a lot of views.
I love that too because I think people really underestimate how charismatic and interesting they are, especially in the fitness business. You have clients who really love you for your personality and your physical presence. So let that come across in your content marketing. Show yourself to your prospects on social platforms before they get into your gym. I think it's just a great strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris, one of the other high-level overviews that I felt was a takeaway here is that gyms are kind of leaning into efficiency. And there's a quote here you had, if I can pull up my notes,
sure,
that a well-run gym with high arm and long leg, lowish expenses, and good coach pay can now outperform the big Globo-style model in profitability, which is the first time this has happened since the Arthur Jones Nautilus revolution in the 1970s.
Yep.
Can you expound on that a little more? Do you think that's a result of gyms leaning into efficiency rather than just sort of hard-headedly pursuing growth?
Yeah, so I think that's a two-headed spear. So first, you've got people like me who just liked fitness, started a gym, hoping to make a career, and reluctantly learned to look at their numbers, and finally figure out like, oh wait, I don't need 12,000 square feet and 12 half-time coaches. What I actually need are about 3,000 square feet, an appropriate price, and a model that works. On the other head of that spear is that as these gyms become more and more successful and as this kind of data becomes publicly available, you also start to attract more experienced entrepreneurs who kind of know what they're doing way better than I ever did. And so now they're seeing like a fitness business as a viable investment. And I'm not just talking about the franchises, though it is happening there too. It's also seasoned entrepreneurs who maybe did okay with their restaurant, maybe they did okay with their coffee shop, and now they're coming into fitness. And this is the first time that's ever happened. Before, I don't know, the 70s, nobody owned a gym. The muscle culture was oiled up dudes mostly working out on the beach, and it was kind of like going to a steam bath place or something. Like it just felt weird. And then Arthur Jones comes in and he's got all these Nautilus machines, and suddenly anybody could open up a gym with a big enough investment. And that's where you started to see private gyms and like YMCAs really cropping up and promoting fitness. We haven't seen that kind of revolution again until, 30 years down the track, Greg Glassman says, no, you can open up a gym with a homemade plyometric box, one rusty barbell, and a watch, and that created 30, 40,000 first-time entrepreneurs. Some of those dipped away, and now some of them are sorting it out, and some of them are coming in for the first time ever as like qualified investors. I think both are good. I love that you can still start a gym for under $10,000. It can be your first entrepreneurial venture. I also love that people who know way more than I do about business see fitness as a viable career path for them, because that means it's a viable career path for everybody.
It seems like, kind of just flowing into the next thing, it does seem like coaching careers are becoming a bit more sustainable now. Yeah. As a result of some of those increases in the metrics you'd mentioned. I think in the report that I imagine the mean is affected by a lot of part-time people, yeah, but the median pay for was interesting. Actually, a one-on-one, I guess, is a little bit skewed because typically it's the owner, one person doing the whole thing, right? So it's not like you're have an employee in that context. But small group, another win for small group, 37K, I believe was the median. Yeah. Big group was 34K. So you can get a very respectable, high quality part-time person for that level of income, as opposed to, what you had mentioned in the report, relying on volunteers to present your product and just saying, hey, free membership for you for teaching a couple of classes. Is it fair to say that coaching is becoming a more respectable not only just a side hustle, but a genuine career.
Yeah, there's another corresponding data point, and that's most gyms have fewer coaches now. So the same money is going out, just to fewer people. But wages in general are going up, and it's not because people are getting paid more to coach classes. That number's actually down a bit from last year. It's because more and more gyms are saying, okay, we've got big group, the lowest paid tier, but we're also doing personal training, and so those coaches are able to do both and supplement their income with personal training and boost it up too. So by hook or by crook, I mean we are making better careers for coaches, and we're very close to a time when people will have at least one full-time coach, and they don't have to open a gym to make an income like I did.
And with that, I just took so many notes here. There's so much I want to respect your time, but there's so many questions. Jumping around here to retention.
Yep.
Is it fair to say that retention is still kind of the industry's Achilles heel? Is that just generally a fair statement?
Yeah, fitness is hard. I mean, we want to work out, but we are the freaks. Like, we are the extreme minority of people. Most people don't want to. And, add on top of that, when somebody, they get up the motivation or whatever, the discipline to start working out, they're with you 3 hours a week. And they're at home, 150 other hours a week. And the whole time they're at home, what they're hearing is, I'm proud of you, but I'm pretty tired of getting up at 5 a.m. to let the dog out because you're already gone. I'm proud of you, but man, making the kids lunches every day is getting old. You're doing great, but man, you're so tired. You're falling asleep in the middle of Jeopardy at 6:30 at night. Hey, it's great that you're getting fit, but why are you always running to the gym Saturday morning? Like, they're getting all these this resistance. Why are you coming back to work at 1 p.m. and you're always so sweaty? That's what they're facing. Like, they're not just fighting the weights in the gym. They're not just fighting the scale. They're not just fighting the nutrition stuff. They're fighting their entire environment. And one of the greatest things that we can possibly do is help them change their environment by bringing their friends and coworkers and spouse into the gym too. That will help with leg. The big factor that a lot of people don't understand with leg is all psychology. And if you can get your client to refer their buddy, both of them will stay a lot longer. The referrer will stay longer because they're invested in, selling your gym to their friend. But, the books that will help you improve retention are not the books on coaching. It's not reading like Journal of Strength Conditioning Research. It's not even getting better results. It's not getting your level 12 black belt, whatever. It's like influenced by Cialdini, right? It's like Built to Sell or Born to Sell. It's these books about human psychology that's how you retain people, right? It's not specific method knowledge.
You say in the report that 24 months is that golden number we're all gunning for with length of engagement. Like that is where this has become a embedded part of this person's life. You've made a significant change in their life as it pertains to their fitness and all the things that can translate to. But we're not there. We're I think about 19 or 20 months across most regions. What are 2 or 3 things, other than just starting to track leg, which I imagine is going to be number 1 on this order of operations, but 2 to 3 other quick things a gym owner can do to really specifically address this length of engagement and hopefully improve it?
Well, the number 1 thing is you got to have an on-ramp. There are still a lot of big group gyms that don't do an on-ramp, and if you segment them out, their leg is like 7 months. And, that's because they do keep some people long-term, but most of their people will bail in the first 3 months. And if you look at the club industry, gym dropout day is like March 13th or something. That's the average that a person who pays for a yearly membership will quit, is around March 13th. So what you want to do is go as far away from that club, show up and work out mentality as you can. And so an on-ramp is your first step. Gyms in Two Brain who add an on-ramp and do nothing else change their leg from like 7.8 months to 13.1 months. That's massive. And then what you want to do is you want to look at your leg and say, where are people dropping off? Okay, well, if they're dropping off in the first year, you need to add an on-ramp and plan out the first 90 days of their journey and deliver them content and helpful tips for the first 90 days. If they're leaving between the 90-day and the 2-year mark, they're bored. And so you have to actually add some challenges. So you need to be doing goal reviews. You need to be measuring their progress, saying what's next for you, challenge them to hit a higher metric or even an attendance goal. And that's what's going to keep them coming back. And then beyond that 2-year mark, you're looking at either building an ascension model like a belt system, or you're looking at probably some kind of competition, somewhere where they're still challenging themselves in life. So it doesn't have to be like you're going to do a CrossFit competition, you're going to go to the Rogue Invitational. It could just be like you're going to run a 5K or you're going to take swimming lessons. Where a few companies have really dialed this on the belt method is, showing people who have been around the gym for a year, okay, you're green right now, and we could take you to a blue if your lift's improved by X, Y, Z. It gives them something to aim for. Apps like Strava have this absolutely dialed, and you're seeing it more and more in the gym space with services like Level Method.
Chris, if I were to, we can't go the full podcast without talking a little bit about technology. So if Two Brain does such a great job of having these very clear, digestible metrics. Arm, leg, we've talked about. Yeah, you have lifetime value of a customer, effective. Effective
hourly rate.
Hourly rate.
Yeah.
All these things are super invaluable for gym owners. If I were to make you predict that Two Brain has to create another metric in 4 to 5 years due to just the rapid change of technology, like I know it's a bit of an odd one, but like, is it going to be virtual versus in person? Like, might that be a metric we have to start tracking? Is it going to be, something related to programming and, how much of that is created by a non-coach? So maybe that is something that can be outsourced. What might a metric look like in 5 to 6 years?
Well, I think it would probably be behavioral. So, habit adherence, that's a great metric. And if I could get all of my clients to adhere to 5 basic habits every day, everybody would get better results, right? And I'm just talking about walking, reading a book, drinking water, getting 8 hours of sleep. And if we can track like adherence to metrics, that's one thing. Another one would be performance-based metrics. So for example, if I could say like this program produces Y result and that program produces X result better, that's going to be enormously powerful. That might kind of be impossible because everybody's going to have to define fitness for themselves and track against fitness. And like the endurance community has their own version of fitness and CrossFit has its own definition of fitness, etc. But I think probably what you're going to be looking at is like some kind of like output metric for health and fitness, right? Like some would use like fitness age. Some would use like Garmin has its own fitness store. HRV, yeah, perfect example. Exactly. So it'd probably be like outcome metrics.
Chris, we could talk about this report for 3 hours or
Sure.
more. I mean, we barely even scratched the surface of all of the data in there. I will say, as a gym owner, if you receive this report, you're looking at it, you hop into Wodify, you're looking at your Two Brain dashboard and comparing your metrics to the average metrics on this report, and you're like, oof, I'm a little below the average on a couple places here. Where do I start? How do I figure out how to tackle some of these things? Is there any prioritization you would suggest?
Yeah, probably ARM is number one, the easiest, and number two, the most important thing. I'd start there instead of looking at client headcount, because to improve ARM, you're going to have to look at your service, your price, and how you sell. And then I would go into probably clients from there. When I've got a little bit of breathing room, I would probably improve LEG. And we do publish free guides on all of these things all the time. We publish every day, sometimes twice a day. We publish these handy guides with like checklists at gymownersunited.com for free. The reality though is that just like you can publish workouts for free online and your clients can get their workouts for free online, only about 10% of the people can just take that and run with it. Most people need a coach in fitness, in business, in most parts of life, and it's the coach that helps you implement at speed.
Well, Chris, this has been awesome. We could talk to you for we could fill another hour very easily. As you can tell, Reganne and I enjoyed reading this report. We came away with a lot of takeaways, and genuinely, for the gym owners out there, read the report just to understand the industry that you are in much better. Chris does an awesome job in the report laying out sort of just the general structure of things. And it's very digestible. It's very action-oriented. You have some takeaways and things to focus on as a result of reading it. So can't recommend the State of the Industry report enough. It should be an annual read for all the gym owners out there. And Chris, thank you, A, for producing the report, and thank you, B, for joining us again on The Next Rep.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Chris. Have a great rest of your day, man.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.